right. So what we're going to take a look at today is I wanted to just give you a quick review if you were struggling with some of the logistics of getting the spreadsheet to do some calculation for you. So here I'm on the second tab, so where we were comparing mental health disorders versus mass shootings. So again, remember where we started off was we needed to select all of our data, right? And then we use the spreadsheet to insert a chart. And then we wanted to make sure that that chart was set up as a scatter chart. And then the way that we got our trend line was we came over to custom and series. If you tick the trend line box, then here in the label dropdown, choose use equation and show R squared. So those are the pieces that we had in class yesterday. So the piece that we were running out of time that we looked at one example of before the bell rang was just how can we actually get the spreadsheet to calculate our predicted number of mass shootings. And from there, how can we get the spreadsheet to calculate our residuals, and then the residual squares. So those are the pieces that you guys are going to want to finish up on all three tabs for tomorrow in class. And tomorrow in class, we'll actually calculate the standard deviations from those sum of residual squares, and then we'll do another interpretation, kind of like what we did at the end of the first section. So remember, I forgot to put one heading in here. So in the D column, we would put predicted shootings. Here again, I can hover over this boundary between D and E, and I can make it a little bit wider. That way I can see my data. Now, anytime we want a spreadsheet to calculate for us, we start by pressing the equal key. That way the spreadsheet knows that it's going to actually start doing some work. Now we need to type in this equation. Remember, this e to the negative 7 tells us we want to take the decimal place here on this 4.43 and shift it to the left 7 places. So here that's going to mean that we would have 0 point and then 6 leading zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 443 is kind of the numeric part. So that is what 4.43 e to the negative 7 is. It's just the scientific notation. And then in our regression, we see that it's times X. But remember our X, that was the number of US residents with mental health disorders. So what we'll do is we'll click on this first box, the one in the same row. And what the spreadsheet's going to do is it's going to plug in that specific number into this formula for us. Okay. Notice that only gives us the first half of our regression. Now we also need to add on the plus negative 16.8. So I'm just going to write minus 16.8. Okay, so whenever we plug that in, this little pop-up here tells me approximate, or it tells me what that would come out to. If that value looks reasonable, that's just to kind of confirm that you didn't have an easy typo. You can press the Enter key, and it will actually make that formula official. Now, you can either just hit the autofill, so you can click the check mark here and it'll autofill those formulas down, or the other option is if you click on the box just once, you'll see this blue handle. If you hover over that, your cursor turns into kind of a little crosshair. Again, you can click and you can hold and you can drag that down. And this is just going to take that formula and it's going to pull it down through each of these cells. Okay, and remember, like we looked at in class, if you were to double click on any one of these cells now, you can see that we have all the same values from our formula, but the value of X, where we put this box over here, it just advances down to the next row. So that's where this formula does a nice job for us of always just plugging in the next value in our input column. Now for the residuals, remember, pay close attention to the sequence. Honestly, whenever we get to the squaring, the sequence isn't going to make a difference, but there is an official definition for residual. It is the actual predicted data, or the actual data, excuse me, minus the predicted data. So it's y minus y hat. So here again, we want the spreadsheet to calculate for us, so we'll press equals. And now here we're comparing our outputs, which are the mass shootings. So we'll have our actual number of shootings minus our predicted number of shootings based on our regression, press enter, and again, we can autofill down. And then the last one that we're going to look at for tonight is how to get the square of all of these residuals. Because our big picture, whenever we want our standard deviation, we know those residuals, some are positive, some are negative, and those indicate either an underestimate or an overestimate based on the regression line. But when we want to combine them all together, that positive negative stuff would throw off our answer. So the way that we turn everything positive is by squaring those residuals. So again, we'll press equal so the spreadsheet knows to calculate. And we're going to take this residual. So we'll just click on the cell to the left and we'll square it. So there I'm using just Shift-6 to get the up caret and then type in the number 2. Again, press enter and we can autofill that formula down. So these would be all of our residual squares. You'll see here every value. Before we had some positive, some negative, some underestimates and over. Here, whenever we square all of them, of course, we have positive. So where we will pick up tomorrow is I'll show you how we can use the spreadsheet to sum all of these to get a single total. And then from there, we'll look at how we can actually calculate our standard deviation. So in preparation for tomorrow, please make sure that you, on all 3 tabs here across the bottom, have through this residual square column filled in. We will take a look at the sum of squares and the standard deviations tomorrow in class, and then finish up our interpretation.